Okay, just another quick video. Last time we spoke, I took this apart and rebuilt it. It's apart again, as you can see. It kind of went better for a little bit and then it didn't. And it wouldn't start this morning, which it's done a couple of times before. So I basically thought I would look at what pressures it's doing to see if I can adjust it, and you can tap this up and down to change the pressure, you can tap that up and down to change the cold pressure. I basically put my inline sort of pressure tester in. So this is the one that comes from the center top of the fuel distributor, and then this is your return. So basically the fuel that's in here is under pressure and pushes down on the piston, which the flap controls. So the more pressure in here, the weaker the mixture is. So basically when it's cold, there's not much pressure. This allows it to relieve, well, this disc basically in there allows the fuel to go through, so there's not much pressure on top of the flap, so it runs richer. And as it warms up, basically the little push rod, that push rod thing there, presses more on the centre there, which closes that centre hole, which sort of restricts the return, the fuel coming out here, which ups the pressure. So as the pressure's higher, the flap doesn't move the same as easy with the airflow, so you get less fuel, I believe. I think that's how it works. So that center one is the one that basically is the return, and the one you can see on the right hand side that's nice and clear now, that is the inlet. What I was finding was when it was running, and with my gauge on, it was straight up to 80 psi, 75, 80 psi, which is like system pressure, which is meant to be good. That's what it's meant to be, around about there. But what you're meant to do is you're meant to have a tap here, and then your gauge here. You're meant to close the tap, and then whatever that reads is your system pressure. So it was kind of doing that, and when it got hot and unplugging this and what, it didn't make any difference. It was just staying there. So I took this off just to make sure something was coming out this. And I found that there was not much coming out there at all, because I thought maybe the return was blocked further down the line, but there was nothing much coming out of there at all, if a trickle some of the time. So I thought, oh, maybe it needs this moving and adjusting. So I looked, done a bit of YouTube Googling, as you do. You have to excuse the duct tape, that was just to cover it so no air sucks in while I was testing it. But you drill a hole there, and then you can adjust that Allen key, which basically moves this inner spring up and down, which changes the force on this and the force on the pin. And I can't remember which way you turn it. I think you move that downwards, which softens the spring, which presses that less on there, which allows more fuel through, which gives you a richer mixture. So the guy who was doing this was basically saying, oh, well, if you do this, you can kind of run a lower control pressure, so a lower pressure, which means that when you put your foot down, the flap gives you more fuel. So you can see, reckon on the Mark II Golf, he was doing it on the one I watched, it gives you another 10 horsepower. So I thought, well, may as well have it adjustable if we can. I know you can tap this and pull this up and down, and you can tap that up and down. I have actually tapped that up a bit, just as you can see how far it's come up. Because apparently if you tap that up, that lowers the pressure, because obviously that moves the diaphragm away from the pin, so it's pressing on it less. So I might end up having to tap that back down, because I might actually put that back to where it was, because it probably set about right, to be fair. So yeah, what I found was basically in here, they say take the screens out. You can see straight through there now. Now previously, that screen's a bit chewed up now. You see, as you can see the white cardboard through it. I took that out and cleaned it and blew through it and stuff. And I kind of blew down this and a bit went through it, and I thought, well, that's something's going through it and whatever. And I thought, not much, but it's a small hole. I assumed that hole was smaller further up. So I think what was happening was, obviously I could blow down that a bit without all this diaphragm in. But when the diaphragm's there, the way it works is the pressure actually forces this away from that centre hole. So obviously, if there's a restriction there, it's not letting enough through to force that away. It's like you've adjusted it wrong. So I feel that's what's been going off. Because I took this off and filled that port there with WD-40. It didn't come out. And this screen here, you can see that one. Now, I've not actually cleaned that, but you can see. You can't really see through it. So I'm going to clean that out. That'll probably clean up. As long as it's like that one, it's fine. And there was quite a lot of gunk underneath that. So I think possibly what's happened is either something's come through. I think what's more likely is the first time I cleaned it out, I wasn't thorough enough. And I didn't make sure there was a good flow of blowing air through there. And that's just probably a bit more muck's come through when I've had the everything else apart. And that's got a bit more clogged up. So I think when I put it back together, it should work now. I'm going home in a minute though, I've had enough. But you're kind of learning as you go along. I couldn't kind of work out what these two ports were for. I thought that was an inlet and whatever. But like I say, this one is the one that comes from the centre of the fuel distributor. And there's a guy on YouTube who does a really good example of it, sort of got a cutaway fuel distributor. But basically, the piston that moves up and down with a flap, the flap pushes up and down. Above there's a cavity, and that cavity is filled with fuel, and that line comes to here. So when this relieves the pressure, there's less pressure above the piston, which means the piston can move more freely, which allows more fuel, the flap to move more in relation to how much air is going through and how much the throttle's opening. It gives you more fuel. So yeah, so it's kind of a good kind of video, good understanding. So I think I've been playing about trying to adjust it, and then I've come to realise that at one point I adjusted it and it did kind of change a little bit, and a bit of fuel did come through, and then all of a sudden it stopped again. But I think what's probably happening is it builds so much pressure up there that it kind of forces a bit past, and then it started leaking out my tester, because obviously you got 80 odd psi on a little tester on the pipes and the clamps, and it was starting to come out of there a bit, which is probably why, because it shouldn't be that high, unless you lock it off to test the system pressure. But you wouldn't do that for long, you just do that for a bit to test it. So I'm hoping this kind of gasket here, I've had this apart twice now, but I've kind of just put a bit of seal around that, and I've left that together as I took it apart. So I think that'll be okay to go again. What I'll probably do is I've got a little grommet that fits in there. I might put a grommet in there. Or I might just put some of this duct tape over it actually, because it's maybe a bit of seal around and then the duct tape, just to seal it off, because it does get around the thread. Because if you try and pull a vacuum with that open, it doesn't. I mean, it only enriches it a bit when you accelerate. I think it just pulls that down a little bit when you accelerate, just to give you a little bit more fuel, a little bit extra, make it a little bit richer. But yeah, so a bigger understanding of what it sort of does now and how it works. See, that's the post that you can tap and move up and down, which is there in the middle. And obviously as you move that up and down, you're moving this plate up and down. So that's how you change. I think that one, you knock that down to change your cold pressure, so you're moving it away. And then this, to, as far as I'm aware, to lower the hot pressure, you tap this up. But there's plenty of videos on it and stuff, but just something to be aware of. I mean, really, it's my fault. I should have, but not being familiar with it, I figured, oh, maybe it's a really small hole to build the pressure. And even though the hole it didn't look like that, it looked like that. And I thought, oh, well, inside the drilling might be smaller further up, and I could actually blow down it. So I think that hopefully, once I put all this back together tomorrow, well, I'm finishing tomorrow for Christmas, so the wife might not be happy, but once I put the rest of this back together, I think what I'm going to do is adjust the pressure with this open, have it sort of sitting there with my gauge on, adjust the pressure till it's right, then seal that up and then bolt it all on properly, and then check the pressure again and see what it is. I think people say between 49 with the vacuum pipes on, etc., 49 and 55 psi. But I've read a lot where a lot of people are saying 46, and that guy who did his GTI, he did it about 5 psi lower than what the factory setting was, and he reckoned that gave you a bit more performance. So the thing is, I can play about with it. I think I'm going to set mine at 46 and see what it does, and if it's horrendously rich, or you know, it's not happy like that, I can't get to run properly like that, then I'll maybe adjust it. But obviously I can tweak it a little bit now. I can adjust it without tapping these about, which it's not too bad to take to bits, to take off really. It's a 10-minute job to take it off, it's not a problem. So yeah, so that's a new one on me, but we are learning as we go along. So hopefully with this sorted, if that's been blocked up sort of intermittently, that's probably why sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't, you know. Sometimes this regulator probably was working, and then sometimes it wasn't, you know. When I first put it all together, it seemed to work, but then it's gradually, so maybe I'll push some crap into that, I don't know, but yeah, hope that helps people with a bit more of understanding. To be fair, the price of a new one, it's worth pissing about a bit, because new ones are like 300 odd quid in a recon and etc. To be honest, once you understand kind of how it works, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. I know some people do set the pressure without the heating element in. Just adjust the pressure first and then put the heating element in. But I think I'm going to do it with that in and see what the cold pressure is, and then see if the cold pressure. I'm not too fussed about the cold pressure, to be fair, because it don't take long to warm up. You know, it's after I think it's 5 or 6 minutes, something like that, and that's fully warmed up. It's done its job. So, you know, I just leave it ticking over on the drive. If it's a bit lumpy when I first start it, I'm not bothered. It's what it's like when it's warmed up. Doesn't take long to warm up. But yeah, so that's another one. If you're enjoying the vid, subscribe. I'll try and do some more videos. I mean, once this is back on and I've set the fuel pressure, then I'm going to go and get the emissions checked. Just set the emissions at idle. And then once I've done that, I think the engine is kind of done then, really. Then I'm probably going to get some coilovers for it, I think, because I don't want to, the amount of money I'm going to spend on standard shocks, and all my springs and bushes and stuff are a bit shit. I think I may as well just buy a set of coilovers, even the £700-800 I think you get from America. Then I can adjust the ride out, adjust the sort of tension of them, and do it that way. If anybody knows of any decent, reasonably priced coilover sets that you can buy in the UK, please give me some messages, let me know. Like I say, if you're enjoying the vid, subscribe, give me some likes, give me some comments. I will keep doing these videos. I'm not giving up on it. I'm going to keep going with it, and I am enjoy driving it, to be fair. I mean, I've got a modern Scirocco and I've done 250 miles in it now, and I'm enjoying driving the automatic, I must admit. And I'm not finding it horrendous on fuel, but that's probably because it's running weak, because the fuel pressure's so high. So maybe when I've got it running, it'll run really nice, but it'll skint me. But you know, that's life. You don't buy these things for economy, do you? So anyway, yeah, I'll try and do some more videos. I might come and play with it over Christmas. Got 2 weeks off over Christmas, so I might come and play with it over Christmas. If the wife allows, I might come and clean the interior up and clean the leather and stuff while I'm off work, while the workshop's empty for Christmas. Okay, take care. I'll see you next time.